Incredible twist, vacationing black family arrested by racist cops, father revealed as FBI agent. The Robinson family was on a journey, laughter spilling over milkshakes and fries at a small-town diner. They were living the dream, exploring new places and bonding over shared stories. Marcus, a steadfast father and undercover FBI agent, sat across from Lena, his loving wife, who taught at the local school, nurturing young minds and big hearts. Their spirited teens, Jordan and Maya, animatedly debated who had the better favorite song while enjoying the glow of a neon diner sign. But then, the laughter faded. Shadows darkened as two police officers approached, their eyes scanning the family with veiled suspicion. Marcus felt a chill. His instincts screamed something was off. The world they knew was rapidly shifting, joy turned to tension like a balloon about to pop. Lena's heart raced, a mix of protectiveness and anger swelling inside her. What now? She thought, battling the instinct to shield her children from this grim reality. Are you the Robinsons? One officer barked, crossing his arms tight across his chest. Confusion etched across Jordan and Maya's faces as the warmth of family evaporated. Yes, Marcus responded, visibly tense. What seems to be the problem? The officer glanced at the other, who stood rigid, eyebrows raised in judgment. Before they could answer, Lena stood up, fists clenched. This is ridiculous. We're just here to eat, not to be treated like criminals. A lump formed in Marcus's throat, fear clawing at him. He couldn't let this spiral. His heart ached as he caught a glimpse of Jordan's nervous gaze and Maya's bewilderment, their innocence being snatched away. At that moment, the air thickened, and the diner's atmosphere shifted. A few patrons glanced over, murmuring among themselves, sensing the tension. Lena's frustration boiled, we're just a family on vacation. Why do you see us as a threat? The officers shifted uncomfortably as Lena's words hung in the air like a gasp. The pressure mounted. She wanted to stand her ground but worried about safety. The weight of uncertainty gnawed at Marcus. Should he put his family first or reveal his true identity? He could feel the tightness in his chest, the weight of his secret life as an agent pressing down. Suddenly, the tension crescendoed. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the pull of duty and protectiveness collide. I'm an FBI agent, he declared, the confession slicing through the thick air. The officers flinched, momentarily stunned. Gasps echoed from the corners of the diner, eyes widening in disbelief. The community was now engaged, feeling the tide turn. Really? One officer questioned, glancing around as murmurs of surprise spread. The diners who had once watched in silence began to stir, sharing knowing looks, stepping into a collective awareness. The room's energy shifted, as people leaned in, ready to confront the systemic issues laid bare by this confrontation. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Marcus stood firm, uncertainty looming, and tension palpable. Fear fought against hope. Would the local community rally behind them or succumb to old prejudices? In that critical moment, the future of the Robinsons and the town intertwined with urgency. As officers regrouped, the question hung heavy: could a single family's struggle spark change, or would they simply retreat through the shadows of fear and silence? Marcus's heart pounded as he met the officer's eyes. The other patrons watched, tension crackling in the air. He sensed their silent questions: would they stand up, or look away? His family deserved better than what was unfolding. Why were you called? The first officer muttered, his voice strained. His bravado faltered as he realized the situation was shifting out of his control. Lena crossed her arms, her calm determination now shining through the fire of her anger. We didn't do anything wrong. You know that, she insisted, her voice unwavering. We're just trying to enjoy our vacation. As she spoke, the diner patrons began to murmur in agreement, supportive whispers wafting through the air like a warm breeze. A couple of people nodded, others shot supportive glances at the family. It was a flicker of solidarity, a sign that maybe they weren't alone. But the officers remained tense, caught off guard amidst the rising echo of voices. Listen, Ma, the second officer began, glancing nervously at his partner. There's been a report. Marcus interrupted, stepping forward, his instinct to protect his family overriding his fear. What report? We Haven T committed a crime. Fear spiked through him, a reminder of all the prejudices he had known too well during his years in the bureau. He couldn't let that shape this moment. The first officer hesitated, caught between following protocol and the realization that they were drawing an audience. Just a misunderstanding, he finally stuttered, looking down at his feet. That's not how it looked, Maya piped up, her teenage fervor flaring. You were about to arrest my dad just because we're black. Marcus felt a rush of pride and sorrow at his daughter's courage. He watched as the diners began nodding in agreement with her words, their anger now palpable. Cars lined the street outside, their engines humming in the background, echoing the heartbeat of the escalating tension inside the diner. Enough. The first officer snapped, though his earlier authority was fading. We're just doing our job. A man from the back of the diner called out, your job is to protect, not to intimidate. The voice was firm, steady. It rippled through the room and was met with quiet applause. Lena turned to Marcus, her eyes filled with empathetic understanding. You don't have to say anything, she whispered. She respected his role but was also protective. We'll handle it together. In that moment, Marcus's resolve solidified. He glanced at Jordan and Maya, who were leaning in closer, clenching their hands, a mixture of worry and strength radiating between them. They were ready to fight for their family, but he had to think carefully. Everyone deserves respect, he began, this time his voice steady, including my children. We came here for a meal, not a confrontation. He took a breath, feeling the weight of responsibility. I'm still a part of the community you serve. You all deserve respect too, but we need to talk about what just happened here. As those words settled, the diner's atmosphere transformed. Strangers united against a common force, not just for a family, but for justice. Marcus sensed that this could be more than a local incident. This could lead to change. But as voices rose supporting their side of the narrative, the officers exchanged worried glances, realizing the gravity of their actions. Let us figure this out, one officer muttered finally, but uncertainty still edged every word. Marcus watched the exchange closely, adrenaline sparking through him. Would they face the truth, or hide behind their badges? The diner's murmurs continued as Lena, Jordan, and Maya stood beside him, forming a united front. They were stronger together, facing an uncertain future. Then, through the rows of shifting faces, a familiar figure emerged at the diner's entrance, a local community leader and past civil rights advocate. The room fell silent, and all eyes turned toward him, waiting for his reaction. What would he say? Would he support the Robinsons, or further complicate this already tense scene? The community leader stepped inside, his presence commanding attention like a lighthouse cutting through a storm. He was a tall man with a weathered face that told the stories of countless fights for justice. When he opened his mouth, a hush fell over the diner. Everyone, let us take a breath, he said, his calm tone a soothing balm in the heated atmosphere. His eyes moved across the room, taking stock of both the family and the officers. Then he turned his focus to Marcus. What happened here? Marcus felt a surge of relief. Finally, a voice with authority, someone who could stand up for his family. We came for lunch, and are being accused without reason, he replied, his voice steady but laced with the frustration of the moment. These officers were about to treat us like criminals because of the color of our skin. Discontent swept through the crowd as they murmured their agreement, and the leader nodded slowly, acknowledging the shared anger. "Listen," he said, turning slightly to the officers. "You know as well as I do that these situations can escalate quickly, but we're better than that. It's time to listen, time to understand." The first officer shifted uncomfortably, his badge suddenly feeling like an anchor dragging him deeper into the chaos. The second officer glanced at his partner, uncertainty palpable in the air. "What do you want us to do, sir?" he asked, the bravado fading completely. "First, let us make sure the Robinsons are heard. Then, you might consider stepping back and regrouping." The leader's words rang like a rallying cry, and Marcus took a step toward him. "It's not just about hearing us, it's about ending this type of treatment. We are not criminals. We are a family. We're here enjoying a vacation, and we deserve respect." Applause erupted again, the diners seeing this moment as a turning point. Lena grabbed Marcus's hand, her fingers intertwining with his, their shared strength amplifying in the collective spirit of the room. "Marcus," the leader said gently, "don't forget, you're not alone in this. We're fighting together." Just as he felt the warmth of support surrounding him, the officer cleared his throat, trying to assert himself again. "We were just responding to a call." "Were you responding to a fear or fact?" the leader interjected sharply. "Because that fear is deeply rooted in racism, and it has no place in our community. If you stand behind that badge, people expect you to protect, not provoke." The tension reached a new height as the leader's words sank in. The second officer's face flushed as he glanced at his partner, both of them wrestling with the implications of their actions. "Let us sort this out," the first officer finally said with less confidence, torn between the code of silence he'd known and the reality of the room pressing in from all sides. Just then, Marcus glanced over his shoulder and saw Maya, her face a mix of hope and anxiety. He realized the moment hung heavy with potential. This was about more than just clearing their name. It was about creating a space where families like his could thrive without fear. Then, the door swung open again, and a young journalist stepped in with a camera slung around her neck. She took in the scene, her expression shifting from curiosity to shock as she realized what was unfolding. "What is going on here?" she asked, instinctively raising her camera, ready to capture whatever was about to happen. Marcus felt the world shift beneath him. This was the kind of attention he had hoped for and feared. Would it help amplify their voices, or would it create an even bigger storm? His heart raced. The stakes were high, and the future now sat on the edge of uncertainty, his family's fate dangling in the balance. How would they navigate this moment with the world watching? The room buzzed like a shaken soda can, tension sparking in the air. Marcus's heart pounded in his chest. He locked eyes with Lena, who squeezed his hand tighter, a silent promise to stand together in this storm. The journalist, a young woman with determination etched in her brow, clicked her camera, capturing the raw emotion unfolding before her. "What is happening isn't what you see on the surface," Marcus shouted, forcing the words through the thickening haze of uncertainty. "This isn't just about me or my family. It's about a pattern of injustice that we've had to endure time and again." The community leader raised a hand, calling for quiet again. "Exactly, Marcus," he said, his voice steady yet firm. "The narrative doesn't belong solely to law enforcement or a fear-based call. It's about understanding the humanity in each other. These officers aren't just here to enforce the law, they're part of this community, too." The first officer shifted again, this time his shoulders drooped a little, the weight of the moment pressing down hard. His gaze slowly moved from the community leader to Marcus. I didn't mean," he started, but the uncertainty in his voice made it clear he wasn't sure how to proceed. "Maybe it's time you listen," the leader urged, his voice steady. "Hear their story and take a step back to reflect on how this situation escalated." Maya, her small frame visibly shaking with emotion, managed to speak up. "They only saw us as a threat. But we're just a family," she said, her voice trembling yet brave. We deserve to enjoy our time here just like anyone else. The murmurs of agreement washed over the room again, building momentum. The journalist lowered her camera and leaned against a table, taking it all in. The American experience is meant to be shared every race, every family. Why is it easier to see fear than to see family? Her words lingered in the air like a haunting melody, resonating deeply with everyone present. Marcus felt a swell of strength from the crowd. This was bigger than just a vacation, it was about confronting years of pent-up frustrations that had finally erupted. But now, with eyes on them, they had a chance to bring light to the shadows. Suddenly, the second officer stepped forward, his voice shaky yet insistent. "I'm sorry. I assumed based on." He hesitated, the words tumbling around his mind. Based on what? Stereotypes? It's unfair to you. It's all too fair to use assumptions instead of facts, Marcus replied, his voice steady. You can do better. We all can. At that moment, the crowd erupted in a wave of applause. Encouraged by the growing support, the first officer took a small step forward. We want to do better. But we need to talk, to learn. The community leader smiled, his presence a beacon of hope. This is a good start. Let us keep talking. Let us bring change not just here, but everywhere. Marcus's heart felt lighter, yet the weight of the moment remained. There was still so much to address. It's not supposed to stop with an apology, he reminded everyone. We need action. Just then, a voice rang out from the back, laced with a challenge that jostled everyone upright. What if I told you one of these officers has ties to a recent case of police misconduct? Gasps spread through the diner. Marcus felt the room grow colder, the earlier warmth fading into uncertainty. Whispers erupted again, the atmosphere thick with anticipation and tension. What did that mean for them all? What ripple effect was about to unfold? The room fell silent as the weight of the new revelation hung in the air like a heavy fog. Marcus's mind raced as he processed what had just been said. His heart thudded against his ribcage, drowning out the murmurs that rose around him. Whispers of disbelief, accusations, and fears swirled like a storm, and he felt completely exposed, like a fish caught out of water. Lena's grip intensified as she leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear. What are they talking about? Her voice trembled, laced with worry. I don't know, but we need to keep this under control, Marcus replied, trying to find his footing amid the chaos. The community leader stepped forward, his brow furrowed. He raised his hands again to calm the crowd, but uncertainty had begun to ripple through them. Let's remain focused. We're here to discuss our feelings, our experiences. The past shouldn't overshadow our chance for understanding. But how could they understand when there were whispers of betrayal looming? Anxiety crackled through the crowd, along with flickers of resentment. Hold on. A voice croaked from the back. It was an older gentleman, an elder in the community known for his wisdom. We don't jump to conclusions. What's important is our conversation, our opportunity to build bridges today. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the elder's attempts to divert attention were slipping away. His mind dug deeper, trying to make sense of the officer's connection to misconduct. Why was this suddenly coming out, and what would it mean for his family? Maybe, a brave voice chimed from the side, we need to hear what this officer has to say. What if he is actually willing to change? Another surge of dissent erupted among the community, voices rising as they weighed fear against hope. Tension gripped Marcus once more. Who would stand with him, and who would abandon the cause? Then the first officer, still visibly shaken, stepped forward again, raising his hands in a show of compliance. I can explain. It's like this. Gasps erupted again, this time mingled with curiosity. But the air remained thick, anticipation building. I didn't know about those allegations. I'm just here, trying to find a way through this, same as all of you. His words punctured the atmosphere like a pin that ruptures a balloon, releasing pressure into the room. What if the whole department isn't like that? Someone called out, the question lingering in the air, heavy with weighty implications. Or what if it is? Countered another voice. The system protects the bad just as much as it punishes the good. Marcus glanced at Lena, her eyes reflecting the confusion swirling within him. Moments like this did not come without consequences. Listen, the second officer added, his face flushed. No one should have to live in fear, and if we're going to change that, we need to work with people like you. Marcus felt a pulse of anxiety return like a wave crashing against the shore. How could something as shattered as their trust be rebuilt? But beneath the surface of doubt, hope flickered. Could they salvage this moment, turn it into a catalyst for transformation? Let us create a dialogue, Marcus spoke, his voice sharp, cutting through the noise. But transparency is key. We must understand each other's histories before we can move forward. As eyes turned toward him, the collective realization sank in. This moment was not just about them, it was a chance to reshape stories, reshape futures. Okay, Lena agreed, her voice lifting with newfound vigor. What if we share not just the pain, but also the dreams we have for this community? Something shifted in the crowd, a quiet rustling of change stirring. But before anyone could respond, the elder's voice boomed again, I believe we're on the edge of something far bigger than we imagined, a chance for true change. With that, the room filled with murmurs of cautious optimism. Hope hung in the air, but it was tinged deeply with uncertainty. Will this really be a turning point? Marcus wondered, gripping Lena's hand tight. Or will we just end up further apart? As conversations poured forth, one thing was clear: this moment was only the beginning, and larger truths of friendship and vulnerability were waiting to emerge. But whose truths would prevail, and what showdown lay ahead? The room thrummed with a new energy as conversations erupted like sudden sparks in the night. Marcus could feel the tension slip slightly, replaced by the tentative embrace of hope. His heart still raced, but this time it pulsed with a glimmer of possibility. Maybe we are on the edge of something, Lena murmured, squeezing his hand tighter, as if to anchor herself amidst the swirling currents of change. As voices intertwined, some shared painful stories while others expressed their dreams for a community built on trust and strength. It was messy and raw, but there was beauty in the honesty that hung in the air. They shared experiences of fear and loss, of disappointment and longing, as if stitching a quilt together out of old rags and new threads. I grew up in this community, a woman in the front shared, her voice shaking. I've seen too many friends ignored or mistreated simply because of the color of their skin. She paused, breathing deeply, and the crowd fell silent. I want my children to be able to walk down these streets without fear. Is that too much to ask? A slow murmur waved through the room, a resonating echo of understanding. Marcus's chest tightened. For years, they all endured whispers, glances, and judgment. But at this moment, they were uniting against a common fear, channeling their pain into a bond that might hold them together. And we need to recognize that change starts with us, right here, right now, the second officer spoke up again, his voice steadier this time. It's not just about policing, it's about community. We each have a role to play. Marcus nodded, sensation rushing through him. Could this moment really be transformative? Was there a chance for collaboration, police and community members standing shoulder to shoulder for the greater good? Let us come to the table, Marcus urged, catching everyone's gaze. Honestly. Vulnerably. Together. Suddenly, laughter erupted from the back of the room, breaking the heavy cloud that had filled the space. It caught everyone off guard. A teenager had pushed her way forward, her bright eyes gleaming with mischief. Can we please discuss how my family is always the one to end up in trouble? I mean, what do we have to do to keep it in the backyard? Laughter swept through the crowd, a welcome balm to the tension. The teenager's audacity lit sparks of camaraderie, and more people began to speak up. The laughter was raw laughter that had been held back for far too long, laughter that turned into conversation, a conversation soaked in laughter, pain, resolutions, and even sprinkled with joy. As the evening unfolded, Marcus found himself caught up in the hopeful rhythm of the gathering. He heard Lena sharing her aspirations for more community events, a celebration of cultures where everyone was welcome, a block party that would invite everyone, regardless of background. But slowly, he noticed the elder from earlier leaning forward, his expression darkening as he raised a hand. "Let us not forget why we're here," he cautioned, glancing at the police officers, who looked slightly wooden amidst the laughing crowd. "This is only the beginning, yes, but the road ahead will require courage. Hope is not enough if we aren't willing to stand firm." Marcus felt a knot in his stomach. What if the very hope they were building began to fray? Would old tensions rise to the surface again? As they moved toward resolution, a new voice broke through a loud, vehement shout from just outside the hall. The crowd quieted, heads turning toward the open door. "Hey! You can't just sweep this under the rug!" A man yelled, his face flushed and filled with fury. Marcus could feel the collective breath of the room catch, tension snapping back into the air like an elastic band, a reminder that some issues wouldn't retreat easily. "Who is that?" someone whispered. "Will they disrupt what we are trying to create here?" Lena asked, her grip tightening again. Before they could respond, the man burst through the door, face set with anger and determination. He wasn't just here for a conversation, he was there to expose much deeper truths. As the murmurs began again, the realization hit Marcus: this gathering was heading towards something huge, an unexpected confrontation that could change everything they had just started to build. What stood on the other side of this moment? Would it ignite change or fan the flames further? The man stormed in, a whirlwind of raw emotion. His fists were clenched, and his eyes darted around the room, narrowing on the police officers standing together at the back. Tension settled heavily, wrapping around everyone like an unwelcome blanket. "I don't care about your block parties or your community events," he shouted, voice echoing off the walls. "What I care about is my brother. Those cops out there have been harassing him for the past month. This isn't just a misunderstanding, it's a pattern." Gasps rustled through the crowd. Marcus' heart raced. The laughter had been a momentary escape, but now darkness loomed again. Lena stepped forward, her brow furrowed. "Maybe we can talk about this." "We want to listen," she said, trying to steady her own voice in the face of his fury. "Listen? You want to listen while my brother sits in a cell for something he didn't do? Get real!" he shouted, eyes blazing. "This is our reality, not a talking point for your next feel-good meeting." Some people shifted uncomfortably. Others exchanged anxious glances. Marcus could feel the air constricting, wrapping tightly around their throats. Was this truly what the gathering had become? "Wait," Marcus stepped forward, hands raised to ease the escalating tension. "What happened? Can you tell us your brother's story?" The man paused, uncertainty flickering across his arresting features. For a moment, he seemed to consider retreating, but then the fire returned to his voice. "My brother was just walking home from work, and suddenly he was stopped and questioned. No reason, just because he's black. The cops have been harassing him for weeks. Last night, they took him down for something he didn't do. We reached out, but no one was listening." The room fell into a heavy silence. Marcus could see the struggle in the man's eyes, the pain of a brother's injustice mingled with deep-rooted fear. It resonated with a stark truth that struck everyone in attendance. "Believe us when we say we want to change this," the officer said, steely resolve in his voice despite the continuous discomfort in the room. "We need to understand the reality you're facing. But we need your help. No one is here to sweep anything under the rug." "Help?" The man scoffed, crossing his arms defiantly. "You think words are enough, huh? This isn't a movie, you can't just fix things with pretty conversations." Marcus felt a surge of empathy mixed with frustration. He understood the man's anger. It was valid, it was needed. But they were standing at a pivotal moment. If they didn't try to find common ground, would they simply end up at another impasse, lost to the noise again? Let us take a step back, Marcus said carefully, holding the man's gaze. This isn't just about them versus us. We have to stand together. Will you share your brother's story? Make this our story. The man's jaw tightened, capable of belief and skepticism battling behind his hardened exterior. You want me to share? What if they're just waiting to twist it against us? In that moment of vulnerability, something shifted. The crowd leaned in, their collective energy transforming into anticipation. They wanted to listen, wanted to understand, and did not want today to spiral into chaos. Let us see where this goes, Lena added, her voice softer now, infused with a warmth that made it easier for others to follow suit. As the man hesitated, searching the faces around him, Marcus felt the room's atmosphere swirl with compassion and hope. They could not allow this moment to shatter, instead, it could be the very rock they lay the foundation upon. You know what? The man said, suddenly resolute. I'll tell you what happened. But understand this isn't just about a single story, this is about all of us, the pain and the truth behind it. As he began to speak, Marcus felt a pulse of determination. Perhaps this was the moment that would either cast the community further into shadows or light a pathway of understanding. Would they have the courage to bridge the divide? Would they find the strength to listen not just to this story, but to every voice that had been silenced? The man inhaled deeply, the sigh escaping him heavy with years of frustration. He glanced around the room, searching for signs of empathy, and found eyes fixed on him, anxiously awaiting his words. It was a moment that felt fragile, a ticking clock against which his voice would strike. They pulled him over on his way home, he started, voice steadier now, but still shaky at the edges. Said he fit the description of someone they were looking for. No ID check, no questions about what he was doing. Just get your hands where we can see them. Just like that. Some in the crowd flinched at the words. Each detail landed like a hammer. Marcus felt his stomach tighten, he could almost imagine the fear washing over the man's brother. Every time he steps out, he's terrified it'll happen again. You try to keep your head down, to be invisible. But when you're black in this city, good luck trying to blend in. I spent my whole life training him to stay safe. Don't wear a hoodie at night, don't argue, don't run. But it's never enough, is it? The man's voice surged, the weight of generations spilling into the room. An uncomfortable silence settled again. It felt too real, everyone aware that beneath the surface lay a silent chasm, one that might swallow them if they weren't careful. I bet you think if you just talk to these officers, if you just speak out, it'll change things, the man continued, shifting his focus to the officers in the back. But talk doesn't change the fear that grips him every single day. What's to say it won't keep happening to him? Or someone else? Who's to say that it won't be my son next time? Lena nodded. What if we create something together? She suggested, her voice a steady current amidst the storm. A way to connect stories, to bridge the gap between you and them. Could it help? The man paused, caught off guard by her suggestion. He looked less hostile now, just a man carrying the weight of his brother's life. What good will that do? It's one thing to share a story, but what about action? Will they change? Will they hear us? Maybe this starts with you, with your brother, Marcus interjected gently, searching the man's gaze for some glimmer of agreement. If you're willing to share this story, we'd all be here to carry it. And if they hear it, it might just change something. The challenge hung in the air, and the man's shoulders relaxed a fraction. The officers in the back stirred, exchanging glances as if weighing the stakes they hadn't anticipated. An aura of responsibility settled over Marcus. This wasn't just about regression, it was about moving ahead, confronting a collective history filled with pain but also the potential for change. What if we held a meeting? Marcus proposed. A place where community stories can be shared, but also a place where we can sit together. We can start to change things, tackle the issues head-on. Actions will come from understanding. But we need someone like you to lead this. The man's expression shifted. You want me to lead? Like I'm some kind of spokesperson for a pain that's not even mine. Yet there was a flicker of intrigue, just beneath his resolute mask. Every story deserves a voice, Lena chimed in. And who can tell it better than you? The man seemed to waver between vulnerability and defiance, and Marcus held his breath, hoping he would take the leap. It could be the spark the community needed. But as he opened his mouth to speak again, the unmistakable sound of sirens wailed in the distance. The atmosphere shifted suddenly, an electric charge coursing through the room. Would the officers finally be tested? Were they ready for the storm that was about to break, truths too raw to ignore? The man's eyes narrowed, realization dawning. Are they coming back? As he broke into a sprint towards the door, Marcus felt a jolt of urgency. Was this encroaching chaos the very thing that might ignite the change they sought? Would it finally shatter the silence that had bound them for too long? As the man bolted towards the door, a swell of panic seeped into the crowd. Faces turned ghostly pale, eyes darting, searching for clarity amidst the confusion. It felt like they were about to be swept away by a wave of something they couldn't name. Marcus's stomach dropped. Wait! He called out, but the man didn't hesitate. The sirens grew louder, merging into a cacophony that wrapped around them, tightening with every passing second. He dashed into the chaos, disappearing into the street. Lena stood frozen, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. What do we do? She whispered, her voice only half concealing the tremor of fear. Marcus could feel the weight of responsibility thrumming in his chest. There was a need to act, to find a way to stitch the pieces back together before they unraveled completely. We support him, he said resolutely, trying to summon courage from somewhere deep within. If he is out there, he needs to know he is not alone. Quickly scanning the crowd, he caught the gaze of several community members, people who had once gathered for coffee and chatter, now hardened by a shared sense of urgency. They exchanged glances, half understanding, half afraid, but all willing to step forward. Let us go. Marcus urged, moving towards the door. He felt Lena at his side, her resolve hardening like steel. They stepped outside into the bright glare of the streetlights merging with the flashing blue and red lights of the police cars. The scene was tense. Officers were forming a line, their faces obscured by the shadows of their hats. The air grew thick with uncertainty. A knot in Marcus's throat tightened as he sought the man, hoping he hadn't gotten too far. Where is he? Lena's voice wavered, tinged with concern. Just then, a voice rose above the din. Hey! Over here! A bystander pointed towards an alley, and Marcus's heart thudded in his chest. In a flash, he and Lena rushed toward the sound. Narrowing his eyes, Marcus searched the darkness. Shadows flickered, and there, against the wall, was the man, chest heaving, bracing himself as a pair of officers approached. The callousness in their expressions made Marcus's blood boil. Stop right there. One of the officers barked. Let me talk to him. Marcus yelled, stepping forward without thinking. Lena grabbed his arm, pulling him back. It's too dangerous. But the man looked up, his eyes catching Marcus's, communicating a mix of fear, strength, and desperation. I can handle this, he said, his voice barely above a whisper yet dripping with resolve. The officers squared their shoulders. What is going on? One demanded, his gaze scrutinizing every inch of the man. He hasn't done anything. Marcus shot back, his voice rising with indignation. You have no right to treat him this way. Hands where we can see them. Barked another officer, stepping forward. Tension crackled like electricity. Marcus felt Lena squeeze his arm tighter, her breath hitching at the imminent confrontation. Please, just listen. The man implored, daring to step forward, hands raised but shaking slightly. What unfolded next seemed surreal. In the background, voices raised in protest began to rise like an anthem, a chorus of unity. The bystanders gathered, a bulwark of hope against adversity. One woman stepped forward, her voice steady and clear. "This needs to stop. We are tired of this." A ripple of agreement shot through the crowd, merging emboldened individual stories into one powerful narrative. Marcus watched as the man found his voice, standing tall amid the menacing tension. Would they listen? Would his story break through the walls built by indifference? The weight of the moment pressed heavily against Marcus's heart, but somehow, in the swell of voices, he sensed a flicker of change stirring. Hope battled fear, the potential for transformation was alive and electric, pulsing through the air. As he met the man's determined gaze, Marcus realized this was more than about laws and rights, it was about courage, community, and confronting fears head-on. But would they stand together to demand change, or would fear silence them once more? Suddenly, the crowd erupted in unified shouts, shaking the brick walls around them. Would this be the spark they needed, or just another moment of chaos swallowed by silence? The din grew louder, a pulsating heartbeat of determination echoing through the air. The bystanders, all clad in different colors and stories, had formed a wall of unity. Marcus felt a stirring in his chest that he hadn't dared to hope for, a sense of belonging, a collective strength rising together. "Listen!" The man shouted again, his voice breaking through the chaos. "We can't stay silent any longer. This isn't just about one story, it's about all of us. It happens to our brothers, sisters, and our children. We're tired of being seen as threats." Cheers erupted from the crowd, voices lifted high like flames igniting the night. The officers paused, their expressions shifting as they took in the unexpected wave of support for the man. Marcus shared a glance with Lena, who wore a fierce pride in her eyes. This was at the tipping point they had all been waiting for, a rare chance to face the truth together. "Remember that meeting? The one we were talking about earlier?" The community leader re-emerged, standing tall against the backdrop of shouting voices. "This is the moment we can seize. This isn't a fragmented, isolated issue. It's a community tragedy that needs healing." "That's right." An elder called out. "We must gather our families and share our stories. Dialogue is powerful, but we must hold them accountable for actions that harm us." Marcus felt the ripple of agreement wash over him. A fire had been ignited within him, an energy he had not foreseen. The officers stood there, uncertainty flickering in their eyes as they struggled against the tide of emotion surrounding them. In this raw moment, they were confronted with the weight of their past, every misstep affirmed, every hurt echoed back. "Our experiences don't define us," Marcus spoke up, voice steady, yet cracking with emotion. "We came here for a meal, and all we wanted was to enjoy our family vacation. But that doesn't diminish the roles we all play. We can't hide from these realities anymore." The second officer shifted uncomfortably, his face paling as the crowd's frustration mounted. "You're right," he finally said, raising his voice enough to be heard over the growing noise. "We do need to listen and reflect on our actions." "Listening isn't enough." The man interjected, urgency lacing every word. "You need to commit to change. That's the only way we can rebuild trust." The earnestness in his voice sent shivers through Marcus. He dared to believe that the moment of reckoning was finally upon them. It was no longer about window dressing, it was about truth, real stories intertwined with everyone's hope for a brighter future. Suddenly, the sirens that had been wailing in the distance quieted, the throbbing rush of flashing lights dimmed, and the atmosphere shifted. Instead of casting a shadow, the police presence became an opportunity for dialogue, a moment to acknowledge their failures and recognize the community's pain. "Let us start now," the man declared, looking directly at Marcus. "With us together. We all deserve better than this. Together." The crowd echoed, a resounding chorus vibrating through the air. They stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to face whatever came next with newfound strength, trust exchanged for fear. At that moment, Marcus's heart swelled. Unified voices were calling for change, and as the dawn approached on a new day, the community was embarking on an unparalleled journey. No more hiding, no more silence. They would speak not just for themselves, but for every family that had ever felt the sting of prejudice. Change requires courage, he called again, rising, fueled by adrenaline. Let us make a pact to stand together to share our stories, to advocate for justice, and to ensure that no family will experience this fear again. As the gathering moved closer, voices intertwined, an avalanche of hope descending upon a once fractured community, the moment crystallized into something magical, a new beginning, a chance to dismantle age-old divides. And Marcus? He felt alive, ready to raise his voice alongside others, each thrum of his heart echoing with purpose. They had begun to turn the tide, and with steely determination, they were not only poised to overcome, it was their time to rise. In this scene of solidarity, beneath the stars of a burgeoning night sky, they knew they could boldly step into the future, demanding change and forging a path of understanding, leaving the shadows behind for good. The last words hung in the air, a bright promise shining brighter than the flashing lights around them, a call to support, to engage, to act, and to love. This was their moment. This was the community awakening, their stand for one another, etched eternally in the fabric of their lives. And you need to subscribe now to keep following stories like this one. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the message alive. Comment your feelings about this incredible ending and what it means to you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of acting and supporting our community through these actions.